The counterculture was a major cultural movement that opposed war and fought for social justice in the 1960s. The Cold War and Vietnam War caused tensions in American society over whether these wars, or war in general, was morally acceptable, and the counterculture was one outlet people had to voice the anti-war side of the argument. It focused mainly on defying principles of the traditional conservative culture that had formed in the years after World War II. This movement is particularly well summarized in this quote by Lisa Law. The counterculture was an attempt to rebel against the values our parents had pushed on us. We were trying to get back to touching and relating and living. Law is famous in the counterculture movement for taking pictures of influential figures such as Nico Reed and Bob Dylan. Starting in the early 1960s as a protest against the Cold War, and especially strong in the western United States, particularly in San Francisco, the counterculture grew to protest social inequalities and the Vietnam War in its later years. It also served as a rebellion against the rigid moral values of the prior decades, through exploration of sex, drugs, and music. The main contributors were white, middle-class hippies, who promoted these new ideas through art, mass media, and protest. Some practiced yoga and became farmers, living separately from main American society with alternative lifestyles. One of the hippies' most popular slogans was flower power, and they often decorated their cars with vividly colored peace slogans in strange new designs. Make love, not war was also a much-used phrase in their protests against violence. Popular musicians of the time included Bob Dylan, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, and the Grateful Dead, who were able to communicate their thoughts and ideas to the masses in new ways. Peace gatherings were numerous, including the famous Summer of Love in San Francisco in 1967. One of the greatest counterculture events of the 1960s was Woodstock, a 3-day festival of peace, love, and music. Musicians came to perform in front of a vast crowd with the goal of forgetting the despair of the Vietnam War and allowing people to enjoy themselves freely in the time of peace. Over 400,000 people came to the concert, about 8 times as many as had been expected. Hippies also advocated for civil rights for minority groups like African Americans and Native Americans, and they promoted women's rights. The counterculture provided a strong voice of protest and rebellion in a nation undergoing intense social conflict, and was an incredibly popular peace movement.